Hey folks, you're watching Web 2.0.tv. We are here at South by Southwest Interactive, having a blast. Got an old friend here. I'm so jazzed to see you. Got Glyn Meeks of Primus. I'm glad you could join us and get off the racetrack, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, to come on and join us. Do they have a parking spot for you up front?
They didn't, actually, and at $25, I'm not parking in the Hilton either.
Well, for those people paying attention that have no idea what Primus is all about,
okay,
we got to showcase it. So tell me about what you're doing.
Primus Networks, I'm on the board, small company that looks after outsourcing services for other small to medium-sized businesses in Austin. They've been around for a number of years, got a great track record, and it's one of essentially a new generation of service companies that's starting to spring up. They've built a good reputation, they've got a good set of services, and they're in pretty much growth mode, and they're starting to spread along the coast as well. So they're spreading outside of Austin, Houston, Dallas, and a lot of the coastal stuff with some of their new services.
Okay, well then tell me about some of those services that are just fab and unique and cutting edge.
Part of what they're trying to do is, if you think of technology over the last decade, and I've been in it for, 38 years.
Stop it.
Which is scary. So over the last decade, things have improved dramatically. And what's happened with computer technology is that the big companies that could always afford to service all of these complex software and hardware things, there's now technology available to let the small companies take advantage of that. The problem is the expertise necessary to support it. So much as we can all use telecommunications and working from home and remote this and remote that, you've got to get a geek of your own to manage that. And geeks tend to come quite expensive. And they're increasingly rare. What Primus does is provide you with those geeks. Highly trained, specialists in particular areas. They'll be proactive, so you don't have to solve the problems and call them. They'll monitor your systems. And with the use of remote software, which is now readily available, you've already got access to all these minds on site in your small company without the expense of full-time staff. It's a great outsourcing model, and it's starting to become more and more prevalent.
How are you making that economical then? Because it sounds like someone who has the wish list, like I wish I had a cleaner, I wish I had someone that could take care of this in my house, I wish I could have someone that picks up my kids, but I can't afford that. How are you actually making it affordable for a smaller company?
Sure. You can't afford to have the person pick up your kids who works for you all the time. You can't afford to have the cleaner live in the house all the time. But if all you needed was for the person who picks up the kids to spend half an hour every day picking up the kids, then you can afford them. If all you want is somebody to cook for you an hour a day instead of living in, then you can afford them. So what Primus do is they give you the cook, and they give you the maid, and they give you the bottle washer only when you need them. So therefore you can afford all those different skill sets, but you don't have to have them on board full time.
And because what's the monitoring system, as you put it? Because obviously they're pouncing on a problem before you have to pick up the phone and say, the laundry's really high now.
Precisely. Now, let's take the analogy a little further. If you had a little sensor on your washing machine that told you when the laundry had piled up high...
But it said it hasn't been used in a while.
Yes, thank you, Kimberly. Then effectively all you do is, if somebody can switch your washing machine on remotely for you, then you don't have to get involved at all. And effectively what happens with the latest software is that Primus are constantly tied into your network. And then as soon as something starts to go wrong, because all the sensors that are on disk drives and on communication lines now tell you when they detect a potential failure. So what happens is, there's a potential failure, I'll let Primus know over a phone line. Somebody's constantly monitoring, and there's an alert that goes up and says, there's a problem at ABC Company, potentially in an hour if you don't do something about it. The guys at Primus figure it out, go fix it, and you don't even know there was a potential for something to go wrong. Your network keeps running as it always has, with no interference whatsoever.
So how do you find... How did the company actually build up to find brilliant minds to understand these services and actually implement them seamlessly?
Typically, they steal them from large companies that have already trained these people.
I always didn't want to say that, but that was my first.
I mean, it happens, and one of the interesting things about the tech industry is over a long period of time, people don't stay in jobs very long. I think the average half-life is about 2 years in a job for techies. So they're constantly looking for change and challenge. The nice thing about working in a company like Primus is, unlike in a large company where you're tied to one environment and one customer, what we offer to those employees is the ability to look at lots of different environments at the same time, so that their skill set starts to grow, they become more valuable, they become more contributors to the technology age, and everybody wins. So the employees win because they get to play in lots of different environments, and the customers win because they get access to lots of different mindsets and lots of different skills. So it's great. It's a great win-win for everybody.
Now, what technologies are you supporting? Is this PC based? Is this
PC based,
okay.
and it's all the Windows variations, and it's all of the networking software that's available out, and it's the Cisco networks, and it's the big disk drive configurations.
Right.
So it's a typical large to medium PC network that you can now implement in a small to medium sized company and run the same stuff that the Dells and the IBMs and the
Right.
Ciscos are doing.
So do you actively look for? Okay, how do you gauge who you're going to actually bring on as a client? Is it okay if they make this amount of, if they have this type of revenue and under, we're going to focus from here on down?
To a certain extent.
You get tempted to look up,
yeah,
obviously.
one always gets tempted to look up, but I think with Primus we found a niche. You know, if you think of, and companies go in ranges anyhow, sort of, and one doesn't want to put a top limit on it, but 200 people and below is a prime size company that Primus would fit well into.
Okay.
Now, we've handled some larger clients. It's just that's, once you get over that size, you tend to hire your own people.
Yeah.
But under that, it's really not necessarily economical, so there's a great fit into that size in the marketplace.
And none of the data within, or let's just say the confidential data within the companies themselves, everything is pretty much, this is just support on the technology itself that has nothing to do with stepping in and looking at any of the data, or any of the formulas, or any algorithms within the company.
Not at the actual, let's take a look at your data and do something with it. It's much more protecting the networks.
Okay.
But what we have introduced is a brand new service, which is realistically only viable over the last 4 or 5 years, which is now backup over the web, or backup over a network. 38 years in the business, I've never backed my PC up because I forget every time, but one always encourages everyone else to do it. Nobody backs up.
You just type everything on 3 different computers,
exactly.
right?
Nobody backs up their systems, and it fails and you're lost.
Yeah.
What Primus have come up with now is a service that you don't have to worry about it. They'll back up your network at night over the web with you having to do nothing whatsoever.
Oh, nice.
And they'll store that backup for you, so if there's any kind of a disaster, they can restore you instantaneously and your business doesn't suffer whatsoever. And this is one of the trends, and this is one of the new services that Primus is starting to offer.
That sounds awesome. So what do you get to do over there? You just keep people in line, or what?
Now I get to talk to Trent about some of the strategic directions and look at some of the financing and some of the growth stuff. It's more of a higher level than being a geek anymore. I miss being a geek, but not that much.
We won't take that title from you. You can always be a geek in our hearts.
I'm proud of that. I'm very proud of that particular title.
So, how do you feel about South by Southwest this year?
I think it's great.
People say it's just entirely different. There's a real clicking of people. There's more interaction in these interactive.
Yeah, I think so, and I think if you look at the history of South by Southwest, it's been trending that way.
Yeah.
And I think I was here last year as well, and technology and music coming together in a huge way.
Yeah.
There's actually a concert being put on later this year in Austin in October, where they're going to use solar energy to power a lot of the speakers. So there's a green trend towards a group of people that are building technology to power those giant speakers off nothing but green energy. And the concert's supposed to be carbon negative and everything else. So I think music changes all the time, but technology and music are increasingly coming together. And in a town like Austin, it's a great combination.
That would make Will Wynn very proud.
It does indeed, and the mayor's involved in it.
I'm sure he is. My gosh. Well, Glenn, thanks so much for taking the time.
It's my pleasure.
I appreciate
Good to see
it.
you again.
I just love the name Primus.
Primus
It sounds
Networks.
fierce.
It does.
Right?
It's a punchy name.
I think people shall remember, because they can get so much out of you guys.
They can. Primus Networks. Come see us.
There you go. They should have good scotch, right?
They do indeed.
Thank you. Take care
My
of yourself.
pleasure.
Enjoy the rest of South by. It was good to see you
Thanks,
again.
Lou.
Okay.
Thank you.
Again, you're watching Web 2.0.tv, powered by ProAce, right here in the beautiful downtown Austin area of Texas. We'll see you in a second.